They're ready to go? Hey friends on Facebook Live, I'm here at the National Association of Entrepreneurs as a guest of Alan and the rest of the folks in the room, and we're going to be talking about mobile greens and wellness and the whole program. So thanks for joining us on Facebook Live. And folks, I'm honored to be here today to share the message about sustainable solutions. One of my favorite quotes from Victor Hugo is there's one thing more powerful than all of the world's armies, and that is an idea whose time has come. And ladies and gentlemen, there's not a better time. The time was 20 years ago to start creating sustainable solutions, but we didn't do it then, so we have to do it now. Mobile Greens and Wellness will be the tip of the spear. This will be the marketing arm that creates the experiential economy that allows people to see, taste, touch, and feel all of the best sustainable solutions that are currently in the world today. Because folks, we're not doing nothing new other than creating the marketing platform. These things have already been developed, they're already available thanks in part to the permaculture people around the world. So why do we want to do this? This is a picture of a piece of land that I own in Costa Rica with a bunch of friends. After I sold my mortgage company in 2004, I traveled the world for a while. And I was looking for something else to do because I'm a very active person. I need to be creating something to feel good about myself, just to feel alive. And I didn't know what the next piece was, so I kind of tried a few things, created a foundation called the Wisdom Foundation because I'm a teacher at heart and I want to teach the kids. And then I found Costa Rica and I absolutely fell in love with the place. And when I was there, I started buying and trading land. It was 2006, so it was like a land gold rush all over the world. Of course, Florida got hit real hard as well. And I started developing, and I became a golf course developer. I bought a big piece of land, and what happened was I had this vision to create a golf course where there was fruit trees growing everywhere. So you hit your ball in the woods, which I do half the time, and you go in and you come out with some fruit that you've never heard of, because in Costa Rica you can produce just about anything. So what happened with that experience is I attracted some environmentalists that hated me with a passion because I was a developer. A lot of developers are hated, but when you're a golf course developer, you're at the top of the hatred list, at least with these particular folks. And you know, I don't mind criticism. In fact, I invite criticism because it's through criticism that you can learn the most, quite frankly. So I invited these people, and they were shocked to get my invitation, but I invited them to my office. I said, tell me why you hate what I'm doing so bad, because I think turning this cattle pasture into a sustainable golf course development where we plant thousands of trees, I think that's a good idea. And I think it'll be better for the land than the current use. And they didn't buy any of that. They proceeded to tell me about the science of permaculture. And permaculture stands for permanent culture. It's a sustainable agriculture design science that actually works great for business as well. And when they finally left the office, I wiped off the blood and tears, and I started studying permaculture because I was curious as to if they had any good points or not. Was what they were saying true or not? And quite frankly, what I learned over the coming months, it scared the hell out of me. Because I learned that the current uses and mining of our resources, the forests, the soil, the fish, all of these current systems are unsustainable. Now, what is the definition of the word sustainable? The true definition of a sustainable system is what? Does anybody know? Probably not, because it's not something that's talked about in schools yet. It will be, in large part thanks to us. A sustainable system is a system that produces as much or more energy than it takes to create and maintain. Right now, are our systems for mining fish in the ocean sustainable? No. Are our systems for mining forests and wood and the use of our soil, is any of this stuff sustainable? No. Now, what happens to unsustainable systems? They always fail eventually. Nobody knows when, but the collapse usually happens overnight. And this has been proven all over the place. In fact, the Dust Bowl was in large part because of unsustainable agriculture. the cod fishery, which was the #1 fishing ground in the world, up in the northeast coast of the United States, that cod fishery went bye-bye in the 1900s. For hundreds of years, boats full, empty boats came to the New York and the Nova Scotia area, and they loaded up their hulls with cod. When that fishery collapsed, it was done. It's still gone today. They outlawed cod fishing back in the early 1900s. You can fish cod now, you still can't catch any cod. So what happens when a major system collapses, like our soils or our fisheries? Well, quite literally, folks, that's the end of our race. And so what happened to me is, as I was studying permaculture, I was having kids. And I started looking at the world from a different, more long-term perspective. Excuse me while I take a breath, because it gets kind of emotional here. And believe me, folks, I went through a couple of years of I focused on the solution so hard that I got depressed, and I'm a really happy person in general. So I started looking at the world from a long-term perspective, and I realized that I have the ability to do something about this. And so I read this quote. I'm going to read it out loud to you. This is Bill Mollison. Though the problems of our world are increasingly complex, the solutions remain embarrassingly simple. Folks, this right here, I started bawling when I read this quote. The problems of our world, let's not focus on them. Let's start focusing on the solutions, and that's what we're going to bring to market right now. Bill Mollison, by the way, in the years to come, he will be known as, I believe, the man who helped save the world. Gosh, I haven't been this emotional for a long time, so I thank you for this. This is a fun opportunity. I took what I learned, and I decided to turn all my energy into creating a sustainable community with food growing everywhere. That was my focus. So the first thing we did was we planted nurseries, and we planted thousands of fruit trees. In this community, we used food forest principles. And this is a food forest picture showing the web of life. You cannot take out one piece of this puzzle and have anything else work. You cannot take out the soil. Franklin Delano Roosevelt said that a nation that destroys its soil destroys itself. Look at Haiti, look at the Dominican Republic, and look at their borders. Go on Google Earth. Their border is the delineation. Why is Haiti so poor, and why is Dominican doing so well? Because the Haitians cut down all their forests. They ruined their soil. It's so hard for them now to redo it. It can be redone. The answers are out there. So you can't take out a piece of this puzzle and have the puzzle work. So we created a master plan using the principles of permaculture, starting by observing the land and deciding where are we going to start our planting, where are the houses going to be. And we ended up getting on 700 and some acres, using less than 2% of our land for our footprint. The rest is natural habitat. And folks, doing business in a foreign country is hard work, is incredibly hard work, especially with a socialist country where the rules are really hard to work with it. Well, there's a book being written about that, so I won't go into that any further. But you know what's not hard is sustainable solutions. Creating food, water, and energy solutions everywhere is relatively easy, and it has to be done, and our job is going to be to do it. This is one of the pictures of our organic farms, our organic gardens, and here, one of the neat systems that was so easy to install. We took water from a jungle spring. We ran it down to the community and we separated it. The community had community potable water, and then all of the overflow went to a tilapia pond. And then we placed the organic gardens below the tilapia pond so it could be naturally fertigated. Fertigate is to fertilize and irrigate at the same time. And the jungle, you'd think with that jungle, you've got some pretty good soil. Well, that red clay, it's not very good for growing. You definitely have to fertigate and amend the soil. So food growing everywhere. This is in southern Costa Rica.
What's the name of the town?
Cortez, Dominical, Ojochal, it's just south of there. food growing everywhere. And when you design it properly, you can have your food like this is near the restaurant. Lettuces and tomatoes and peppers and bananas and even these bushes are a stacking of functions because they create a buffer from the community and the flowers are edible. Now, I didn't know that there's so many varieties of edible foods and landscapes out there until I started studying this. It's absolutely amazing. We planted 4,000 fruit trees, 150 species of food are growing on the property. Capable of feeding the whole community and more, and we did that in less than 3 years. And really, it took us way less than 3 years to get the food systems in place. The rest of it was the construction, the roads, the buildings, and so on. So what's next? Next for me, since I've always been afflicted with this idea that I can change the world, you know, they say that people are crazy enough to think they can change the world, and ones who do, I do. I think that we have the system to do so. So how do we do that? We have to bring it home and we have to scale it. We have to create incredible products that have massive value to the end user. We have to create a rapidly scalable distribution system, and we have to catalyze a community of advocates. Folks, again, the time for this was decades ago, but since we didn't do it and we haven't done it, the time is now to really get the word out about this. How do we start? Well, using permaculture principles, you start by observing what is. And I've read all the books that I can get my hands on too. Think and Grow Rich. I spent $20,000 with educational people like Tony Robbins and all sorts of educational things, learning about business so we could model the most successful systems that are currently out there. And we could stack functions and put them all into one system, which would create the redundancy that nature allows when you've got a sustainable system. You don't see a forest with 100 fruit trees of the same kind. That's not natural. That's what causes plagues. That's what causes a locust infestation or any kind of animal infestation, because they've got so much of one thing that it doesn't allow the natural systems to work. What's the worst monocrop on the planet right now?
Soybean.
Grass.
Grass.
Yep.
By far the most destructive.
Yep.
It has no yield. We have to produce a yield. The yield might be, it looks good, but what looks better? A piece of land the size of this room that can produce tens of thousands of snacks a year, or some grass. You know, I think there's a place for grass, but we overdid it by far. So we asked all sorts of questions. What products have the biggest yield? What are the easiest to harvest? What are the fastest to grow? And what are trending? Obviously, the franchise model has been proven time and again to be the most scalable business model in the world today. That's proven on almost every street corner. And from the franchise model, through this model, we want to attach our trailer, our wagon, to these industries that are already rocketing. The organic industry went from 0 to 50 billion in the last 40 years, and it's estimated that the organic industry will be 250 billion in the next less than 10 years. Do we want to be a part of that? Absolutely. The mobile food delivery system. I don't know if any of you get food delivered at home. I know you guys do a few times a week. Incredible meals, healthy meals are now delivered, because what do Americans hate most? Inconvenience. We need to make it convenient for people to have these sustainable solutions. And the solar industry, best couple years ever in the last couple years. That thing is going up like crazy. As the efficiencies of solar panels go up and the cost goes down, it makes it a more viable product for people all over the world. The hydroponics industry. Hydroponics has been proven for thousands of years, but it's just lately that the pioneers have gotten through the early adopter phase, and now it's becoming mainstream. Hydroponic systems have popped and will be popping up in every major city around the world. I believe it was Alan that actually informed me just a few weeks ago that in China, they are making it mandatory for new housing developments to have food production systems incorporated within the homes. Now, folks, in the generation to come, food production at home is going to be as common as plumbing. And that is going to be when we really save the soils, save the world in a lot of ways. Water filters. I hope none of you drink your tap water. Tap water is absolutely horrible, and And there's a great solution for it. We have that solution. We educate and we demonstrate those solutions from our system. And of course, healthy snacks, healthy juices, that's all within our system. And the experiential economy. In fact, Steve Baker, former VP of Disney, was the one who turned me on to this not too long ago. I think it's Joseph Pine who wrote this book. And there's an entity out there called ING. You've heard of the financial institution, one of the world's largest, called ING. Mm-hmm. Well, they were looking for new ways to get their financial instruments in the hands of the people. And somebody had this crazy idea, which I bet a lot of people called stupid. Let's create a coffee company. Let's teach our baristas for 2 days on how to brew and pour coffee. And let's teach them for a couple months on how to sell mortgages and financial instruments. Guess what? They did $100 billion in sales by creating coffee companies in high visibility locations. And what's the key to that? High visibility. Will we catalyze a community of advocates? You darn right we will. And we've already tested this and proven it. This is my original system. This is called the PermaCube. At the time, it was billed as the most functional and diversified food, water, and energy production system ever created. It was written up in Natural News. Could this be the answer to sustainable food? It was written up in the Costa Rica Star. I built the first very basic prototype at my daughter's school in San Isidro, Costa Rica, and we taught the kids how to grow food using hydroponics and aquaponics, and they loved it. They couldn't, I mean, just being out of the classroom, they were happy because kids like motion, right? And they absolutely love it. Now, we got 12, I hoped that 50 people would watch this video. We got 1,200 shares in one day. Then we took it off because we weren't ready yet. We got calls from all over the world. I want to be part of that. I want the systems. How can I help you, distributor? We talked briefly about the franchise model. How can I help with that? I want a franchise. And we spent the last year redesigning, rebranding, and really going big because we've got an absolute monster by the tail. And we need to get together on this. We need collaborators to bring this and to fill in the piece of the puzzle. The AI, the different things. There's so many things that we can do. And folks too, it's really important that I point this out. This is already being done. All of these things are being done, and they're very kind of fragmented. Our job, we're marketers. We hope to be the world's most eminent permaculture advocates, and advocates for sustainable food, water, and energy production systems. And how and why? Well, the why is good. We've talked about that, but how? Through a mobile green system. Now, this is actually a fairly poor representation of what it will be. Our system will be white. It'll have a professional marketing wrap on it. It'll have solar panels on the roof and that come up and down that act as an awning, which is stacking functions. It'll create all the food, all the water, and all the energy that it needs to run within the system. Isn't that cool? That's gonna blow people's minds. It's gonna have atmospheric water generation, water filtering, and what's our number one product? Microgreens. Microgreens are gonna be the tip of the spear for getting healthy food into people's hands and getting nutrition, because everybody knows disease is rampant. The autoimmune, the cancers, diabetes, all of these diseases are going up like crazy. Why? Because 90% of our illness begins in the gut. It begins in what we consume, food, water, and in our minds. Those are the things that we can change by educating people onto the system. Now, why microgreens? Why not lettuces? So there's quite a few entities out there that I love and we will promote that have used shipping containers that grow leafy greens and herbs and once in a while tomatoes and cucumbers, but not so much. And is that great? Yes. But what I like about microgreens is the fact that they harvest in 7 to 14 days. They can be grown anywhere. And what is the last one? And this is the big one. They're up to 40 times as nutritious as an adult plant. So you take an ounce of microgreens, kale or broccoli or sunflowers or peas or wasabi, and you've got up to 40 times the nutritional content as an adult plant. And we've got inside of our system, we've got shelves, 140 foot of shelves, layers, where we grow microgreens, living food. So every bit of our focus is going to be on sustainable food, water, and energy production systems from these very high visibility locations. Starting in Orlando. Why Orlando? It's the most international city in the world, 72 million visitors, and it's the 6th biggest foodie community, and the climate is great. It's a great place for us to start and test our model. Our first system will be on the ground in less than 2 months. We'll be up for operations. From every system, we will focus on homegrown product lines. We've also developed a line through this company right here, Food, that has incredible products that allow people to conveniently grow their food at home. And edible landscapes, that's my baby. That's the lowest hanging fruit. That's the way we can most rapidly change the world, by giving back some of our profits from every sale to the creation of edible landscapes and to the promotion and inspiring people to grow their own food at home. At least some of it. And what's the best return on investment? If you put 10 bucks into a cherry tree, or put 10 bucks into apple stock at the same time, and you actually use the yield of the cherry tree, your cherry tree would have produced a higher return on investment than the apple stock. If you think about that, 10 bucks, and then for dozens of years, decades, probably 100 years, you're creating hundreds and thousands of dollars of yield every year from your cherry tree. And then creating a curriculum for the schools. We've already done this, folks. And thanks to Brian, we've got an incredible curriculum that teaches permaculture at the schools, using our systems and everybody else's systems that are already proven to work on the market. What's going to be the result of our actions? Individual health, reforestation, because the #1 cause of deforestation is agriculture, replenishing of the soil. As FDR said, a nation that destroys its soil destroys itself, and that's been proven in Haiti and Dominican. You can see the line clearly on Google Maps. The bees, Jane Goodall said, we are going to look back on this dark era of agriculture and wonder how we could have ever thought it was a good idea to use poisons to grow our food. Folks, that kills the microbiotics in the soil, because there's more microbiotics in a handful of soil than there are people on the earth. It's amazing. It's a living system. You can't use poisons and expect that living system to go on. So numbers. I'm not going to get too into the numbers here, other than at a high level, I'll let you know this, that if we can, 6 days a week from 2 locations, if we can serve up to 50 trays a day from 2 locations and get 100 microgreen tray sales a day, then we've got a gross revenue of $60,000 a month, not including hydroponic system sales, solar sales, not including coffees and smoothies and juices, all these things. So we're looking at an incredible value to the individual franchisee, to the customer, to the society, to everybody, because I believe that there's not a better system than capitalism. I've seen it. I've been in countries of all kinds, and I think that when we teach people how it's profitable and beneficial on every level to grow your food at home and to do some of these sustainable solutions, then if you saving the environment is profitable, then the environment for sure will be saved. So the numbers look incredible. And here's another thing that we're going to be educating people on. If you go to Whole Foods, most of that food is cut 11 days before it shows up on the shelves. The average person consumes food 14 days or later after it's been cut and it's dying and decomposing. Most foods, veggies and fruits, lose most of their nutritional value. Some of it in the first 24 hours, some spinaches, 90% in the first 24 hours. So when you have living foods that were cut literally minutes before you ate them or the same day, everything gets better. Your own farmer's market every day, all day long. Now this is where it gets fun. This is what we're ready for right now. So, I wish these were on the TV, but I'll show you these afterwards. These are some hydroponic systems. We will install it and we will maintain it. This system right here, for instance, can produce way over $200 a month worth of on-demand, better than organic food. We'll maintain it for $75 a month. What will you get out of it? Over 200 bucks worth of food, the convenience, the nutrition, the cool factor. Those, when we can put those few things together, let me get back into that in a sec, but we are ready to do this right now. The setup fee is going to be probably around 1,200 bucks, and then we'll do the maintenance as well for those who want the maintenance. And now here's some systems. This is our food house, and I'll show you pictures of this later, but this is our food house in a winter climate, in a summer climate. This thing right here can produce way more greens than an average family can eat, and veggies of all kinds. In fact, in hydroponics, people say, what kind of veggies can you grow in hydroponics? It's way easier to list a few that you can't, because it just works. You can't grow trees in hydroponics, and you can't grow bushes, but just about everything else you can grow. This one is for the school. This is our design, and by the way, we focus a lot on design. Snow Krylik was voted #1 architectural firm of the year. They are our designers for a lot of our systems. And from each system, that ing policy of let's bring them in and let's give them the experience. We're going to be selling smoothies. Imagine a smoothie for kids that has a little bit of avocado, a little bit of banana, chocolate, almond milk, and microgreens. It'll be the best thing that kid probably ever ate or drank, and it tastes absolutely delicious. Imagine the school lunches. My daughter doesn't eat school lunches because they're not very nutritious. This is the school lunch of the future, thanks in large part to all of the people that are going to make this happen. Now, folks, again, if we can make this convenient and we can empower people through convenience, because that's huge. Convenience is huge. And we can inspire through brand and design, and if we can show that it's financially viable and super cool, what's going to happen?
We're going to change the world.
Absolutely. Who wants to change the world with us?
We all.
Let's do it. All right. Thanks, Facebook friends.
Okay.